เซกชันแรกนะคะจากบริษัท Ericsson นะคะนำทีมโดยมิสเตอร์อามิดสูดนะคะมาบรรยายในหัวข้อ Media Compression The Changing World นะคะขอเสียงปรบมือให้กับมิสเตอร์อามิดสูดด้วยค่ะ
Hello. Good morning, everybody. My name is Amit Sood, and I come from Ericsson. First of all, thank you for having us here. It is our privilege to be coming to Mcot for your Technology Day, and I'm sure it'd be a good session for you, and we'd be available outside on the Strong Brothers booth if you have any questions from the slides today. Compression, that's what we do at Ericsson. I take care of the business in Southeast Asia for Ericsson encoding solutions and our compression solutions. I'd probably start by telling you a little bit more about how Ericsson sees the needs of the consumers changing around the world in their TV consumption. Ericsson has a group which we call the Consumer Labs Group. The role of the Consumer Lab Group within Ericsson is to go and ask the end users on the street of what they want from their TV experience in 2020. We do many surveys around the world representing about 1.1 billion people, about 100,000 surveys done by Ericsson, not to the operators, but to the people on the street of what and how they would like to consume TV in 5 years' time.
สวัสดีครับก็ตอนแรกนะครับทางบริษัทนะครับก็จะขอกล่าวถึงการทำรีเสิร์ชกับผู้คนทั่วไปตามท้องถนนนะครับก็คือเขาทำรีเสิร์ชกับ 1.1 บิลเลียนคนนะครับด้วยการทดสอบประมาณ 100,000 อันนะครับเพื่อดูว่าในอนาคตผู้คนเนี่ยเขามองว่าทีวีที่เราต้องการจะเป็นยังไงครับ
This is done in about 40 countries around the world, in 15 major cities around the world, some from the developed countries in the West, and there are many countries again in Southeast Asia where these surveys are conducted, especially in Thailand, in Indonesia, Singapore are the 3 countries in Southeast Asia where Ericsson conducts these surveys.
โดยในการทำรีเสิร์ชนะครับก็จะทำอยู่ในประมาณ 15 เมืองใหญ่ๆนะครับโดยในเอเชียนี่ก็จะมีในแถบนี้นะครับก็จะมีไทยอินโดนีเซียแล้วก็สิงคโปร์ครับ
I would like to share with you here today some of the findings from the survey that we do in TV media, and these are some of the highlights. Later on, if you need, Ericsson can share with you the detailed report from the entire survey done. As you can see here, this is what the answers were from consumers when we asked them, how do you view your TV? About 77% of respondents told us that they still watch TV in their house, which is scheduled broadcast, which is whatever is available on TV, they scan through the channels and watch what is being transmitted on TV at that given time. This is mainly driven by live events. Everybody wants to see the live event when it is happening. You will see a trend here where this is in 2011, and this is in 2014. The consumption of content when it is happening has almost stayed the same. It was 83% 4 years back, it is now about 77%. So there is no major change. People are still watching live TV. They're still watching scheduled TV. However, the main trend, which I'm sure you're all aware of, is that streamed video, there has been a very big jump between the last 4 years. It was only at about 61% in 2011, and now it has shot up to 75%. So we as vendors of equipment and you as operators have to be aware that people on the street now are consuming a lot more content in a streamed video setup on the different devices, on the big TV screens, but there is a lot of streamed video that is now being consumed. And that is a trend that we clearly see from around the world.
จากสไลด์ด้านบนนะครับก็คือจากการด้านบนเนี่ยจะเห็นว่าเป็นการผลการสำรวจ ำรวจของปี 2011 ถึงปี 2014 นะครับซึ่งกราฟเส้นบนสุดจะแสดงให้เห็นว่าผู้คนนะครับยังดูรายการทีวีตามปกติอยู่นะครับซึ่งจะเห็นว่ามันลงจาก 83 ลงมาที่ 77% นะครับส่วนพวกสตรีมทีวีนะครับพวก YouTube หรืออะไรพวกเนี้ยมันจะเพิ่มขึ้นจาก 61% เป็น 75% นะครับที่จะเห็นว่าเทรนด์ของผู้บริโภคเนี่ยจะมาทางนี้มากขึ้นนะครับ
Device viewing. There was a time about 6 years back when we only had a few devices in the house. It was the main TV in the living room, which was where most of the content was consumed. Then came YouTube, and we started to watch some content on the computer. However, you will see here that the TV screen consumption between 2012 and 2014 is almost the same. However, there is a very big jump in the smartphone consumption of content between 2012 and 2014. There has been a major jump in how we consume content on the move on our different devices, which now have internet connectivity on those devices. The one major impact is that desktop computer and viewing content on a desktop computer has gone down considerably between 2014 and 2012. This is not happening in one place of the world. This is a trend everywhere. And this, I'm sure you all see around you as well.
จากนี้นะครับจะเห็นได้ว่าการดูทีวีทางสกรีนนะครับจะมีการลดลงนะครับรวมถึงทางดูทางเดสก์ท็อปด้วยเนี่ยจะมีการลดลงนะครับแต่ว่าที่เพิ่มขึ้นนะก็คือจะมีในส่วนของสมาร์ทโฟนแล้วก็แท็บเล็ตนะครับสิ่งนี้ที่คือจะเกิดขึ้นทุกที่ในโลกนะครับ
Another new concept that we have seen come from the consumers is that everybody had always heard of what we called time shifting, which was that I wanted to record the content now and then watch it later. This was I wanted to watch it when I wanted to watch it by recording that content. However, the concept is now evolving to what is called place shifting, which means that I want to watch the content not only at the time when I want to watch it, but also at the place I want to watch it in a seamless way. If I am watching a movie on my TV and I have to leave my house, then I should be able to continue watching my movie on my device in my car and then maybe in a restaurant. But I should be able to place shift my TV experience from the house to wherever I am moving through the day.
ครับอันนี้ก็จะบอกถึงว่าคือต่อไปเนี่ยไม่ใช่แค่ต้องการที่จะดูทีวีเมื่อไหร่นะครับแต่ว่าต่อไปก็คือต้องการที่จะดูที่ไหนด้วยนะครับซึ่งก็คือสมมติว่าตอนแรกเราดูที่บ้านเนี่ยต่อไปเราย้ายไปดูในรถเนี่ยก็คือมันจะต้องสามารถที่จะดูต่อกันได้เลยนะครับ
Viewing situations. Because of place shifting, we now have a setup where we are watching content at different places and at different times in our everyday experience. This did not exist. Everybody would come near the big TV in the house in the evening, sit together as a family and consume TV. But the whole experience, because of the devices around us, has changed where we start watching content when we are in the bed and we watch content before we go to sleep on the same bed. There are so many different places now where content is viewed and in very different setups. This particular slide will show you that we have done a survey based on the different age groups. So a color represents a different age group, 16 to 24, 25 to 44, 45, 59, and 60, 69. And you will notice that most of the people are still consuming television at home in the evening. That's the big bars. However, there is the younger population that is now watching content at home in the morning, on their bed before they wake up before they get down from the bed. And you will see that the younger generation is driving this change, the people between 16 to 24 years old, driving this change on where and how we consume TV.
จากผลการสำรวจอันนี้นะครับก็จะเห็นว่าผู้คนส่วนใหญ่เนี่ยก็จะดูทีวีตอนกลางคืนที่บ้านนะครับแต่จะเห็นว่าในแท่งแรกสุดของแต่ละอันนะครับจะเห็นว่าเป็นช่วงอายุ 16 ถึง 24 ปีเนี่ยรุ่นนี้คือจะเป็นผู้นำในการเปลี่ยนแปลงนะครับก็คือจะดูทีวีก่อนที่จะลุกขึ้นออกจากเตียงอะไรพวกนี้นะครับ
I hope he is saying the right thing. I don't know. Mobile barriers. We also asked the consumers on the street, what is the biggest problem they see in consuming content on their phones? What are the biggest challenges that they face in moving their TV experience from the TV to the phones? And they said that the data cost is still very, very high. This is the biggest challenge that they have in consuming more content on the smartphone, on the iPads, on the tablets. This is again something which obviously Ericsson as a company looks at holistically as a telecommunication solution provider in enabling bigger networks, better network pipes, together with enabling the TV experience for our customers. Nothing that we got to know was not already known to us. These are the reasons that, depending on the country you are in, are the most common reasons which are stopping the growth even further of streamed video to the devices. Content cost is too high. You as an operator and the end user on the street, they feel the pinch that the content prices are going up. They want to be able to pay for content, but they still don't have the affordability at some point to be able to pay for that content. And that is a barrier to this adoption. That's okay, go ahead. Video quality. Now this has stayed as the most important factor for most consumers on the street. The question that we asked everybody in the survey was, if you had $1 extra for your TV experience, what would you pay that $1 for? And the most common answer was, I would pay for video quality. I have a bigger TV set in my house. I have a high definition phone screen. I will pay for video quality. And that has remained as the top factor for many, many years. For the past 5 years or 6 years, we've done this media survey as the most common factor where people would spend their money. However, the definition of video quality is evolving and changing. A few years back, standard definition was normal quality and high definition was the metric for very good quality. However, the whole paradigm of video quality is changing. Today, in most countries around the world, HD has become a common channel lineup, and that is normal quality, and people are now looking towards the future of ultra high definition and how we can enhance the experience even in the future to 8K, which is obviously 2 times the resolution of the ultra high definition. So our expectations of quality are going up, and we are ready to pay for it as a consumer. That is the trend that comes out from people in our surveys.
จากที่ทำเซอร์เวย์นะครับคือเขาถามว่าถ้าต้องจ่ายเงิน$1เพิ่มมากขึ้นเนี่ยสิ่งที่ผู้ชมต้องการคืออะไรนะครับซึ่งผลการสำรวจก็คือเขาต้องการที่จะดูอะไรที่มันมีคุณภาพมากขึ้นนะครับก็คือมีคุณภาพสูงขึ้นซึ่งจากแต่ก่อนเนี่ยก็คือการดู standard depth ก็เปลี่ยนเป็น high depth นะครับไม่ว่าจะ
Another very common trend that we see happening around the world in some of the more developed countries around the world, this is metrics mostly from the United States. We call it the TV cord cutting. A lot of people today are actually cutting their cable connections. They are moving away from their cable, signing on to over-the-top services from people like Hulu, Netflix, streaming services over the internet, which are one, cheaper. They give you a lot of variety today, have good quality of experience or acceptable quality of experience. So there is a trend moving towards stream video even in the house. It's not only the devices. The set-top boxes are evolving from a pay TV model, or should I say a traditional pay TV model, which was DTT, DTH or cable, to a more over-the-top stream video into the house. And we call it TV cord cutting. You would see in this slide that in 2014, the elimination of connections, which was cutting the cable connection or the satellite DTH connection in the United States, has increased from 7% in 2012 to now 15%, where the connections were eliminated. This is again something that we have to consider together as a partner, as an operator, and as a solutions vendor in designing our solutions for the future and deploying them for our customers' needs. They need to be evolving in their experience, and we need to help them together in that need to make content consumption cheaper for them. That's too much. Atoms and aggregation. Everybody that we have spoken to wants a very atomized experience, which means that they need to be able to choose what they want. I don't want all the channels. I need the flexibility of the channels I want in my package. I want to have the flexibility of what devices I want those channels for, because I have only 2 devices and I want them for my devices versus my kids' devices versus my wife's devices. So everybody wants that flexibility in their experience, but they want you as an operator to provide it in a unified manner, which means that it should be seamless to them in the consumption of content to the consumer. It is your responsibility and our responsibility together as an operator here to be able to provide a unified experience to the consumer, however, with the flexibility for them to choose exactly the service elements that they want to pick up. And this is again a common trend coming mostly out of the United States, but it is present almost in every country around the world we've done these surveys. We have to be then evolving our operations to a point where we can provide that flexibility to the consumers. It's a clear trend across the world. Now, I'd like to change the presentation topic a little bit and move it more towards the codec changes, the world where we've always been used to the MPEG 2 world, which evolved to an MPEG 4 world in compression, and now there is obviously the talk of the new codec called HEVC, high efficiency video coding. And I will talk through some of the challenges, some of the opportunities that HEVC presents, and how it can benefit Mcot as an operator in how you design and think about your channel lineups of the future. In 2008, it was a very simple world. It was 2 codecs. There used to be MPEG 2, which was a very, very strong, robust codec by then, and there was an evolving MPEG 4 codec. Everybody wanted to save bandwidth and wanted to adopt MPEG 4. There were only 2 different operating points. It was either standard definition or if it was high definition. High definition was just starting in the West, in the US and in Europe. And it was a very stable ecosystem. Anybody who had deployed an MPEG 2 environment knew exactly the whole chain, the encoding, the consumption, and the delivery chain. It was all known. However, in the last 6 years, or should I say in the last 8 years now, ever since you have seen all these devices, or should I say the bringing of the iPhone to the market, if iPhone and the iPads really, have completely changed the way we need to rethink about the codecs, about the consumption, and about what we have to do as an operator. The future really is about many, many different choices of codecs, which will give you the flexibility in the applications that you want to deliver as an operator. There's MPEG 2 and MPEG 4, it is still around. There is J2K, J2000, which is a very commonly used codec in sports contribution because of low latency. There is HEVC, which is the upcoming standard for, which is a next generation MPEG 4 evolution. And then there's HEVC-I, which is still within the in standardization bodies. There are many, many new operating points. There used to be 2 resolutions, SD and HD. Today we have a sub-HD for some of the devices. We have a sub-SD for some of our tablets and phones. There are so many operating resolution points today. We have to be preparing and packaging content for these devices. And there is little stability. MPEG 4 today is stable, but not necessarily HEVC. And how do you as an operator take on to the HEVC bandwagon amidst all this confusion?
ครับก็ก่อนปี 2008 นะครับก็ไอ้โคเด็กที่เราได้ยินกันบ่อยๆคือเป็น MPEG 2 กับ MPEG 4 นะครับแล้วก็จะมีแค่2แบบก็คือ Standard Def กับ High Def แต่ว่าเมื่อ6 ปีที่ผ่านมานะครับถึงปัจจุบันเนี่ยก็จะมีหลังจากที่มีพวก iPhone แล้วก็ iPad เพิ่มขึ้นมาเนี่ยทำให้หลายๆสิ่งเนี่ยมันเปลี่ยนไปนะครับก็จะมีเพราะฉะนั้นในการที่คนจะดูเนี่ยครับก็จะมีดูผ่านทั้ง iPhone iPad Tablet PC แล้วก็ในพวกภาพเนี่ยก็จะมีทั้ง Standard Def High Def อะไรพวกนี้นะครับ
It is, you can extend the need today even further. In 2008, no smartphones, no tablets, as I spoke about. In 2015 and onwards, people want TV anywhere because they have devices in their pockets that are traveling with them everywhere they go. There is over the top. I just spoke about it, the cord cutting. People are now moving to streaming services in their house. And there are new devices being launched every week. There was recently a report by CNET, which is an IT firm essentially that checks market trends and market news, and they said there is being about 16 new models of mobile phones being launched every week in the world going forward. So there's about 16 new phones coming to the market every week. And most of those phones today are able to stream content, or should I say consume content, on those big screens phones. So you can imagine that as an operator, if you have to cater for that population of phones in the future, the kind of flexibility you need in your systems to be able to cater for maybe millions and billions of connected devices by 2020. And that is a challenge for us together towards our consumers.
ครับก็จากในปี 2008 นะครับเน้นการใช้งานแท็บเล็ตเนี่ยก็ยังไม่ค่อยมีนะครับแต่ปัจจุบันเนี่ยในการใช้งานพวกสมาร์ทโฟนอะไรพวกนี้มีขึ้นเยอะมากนะครับซึ่งทำให้แต่ละคนเนี่ยก็จะดูคอนเทนต์ที่แตกต่างกันไปนะครับเพราะฉะนั้นเป็นความท้าทายของผู้ผลิตรายการนะครับที่ต้องสามารถตอบสนองความต้องการของผู้ชมได้นะครับ
There is another challenge right now on the market. Everybody is talking about 4K, ultra high definition television already in the world. So there is already so much confusion around the codecs, the resolutions, the devices, the delivery, whether it is cable, over the top, satellite, and then there is ultra high definition because people will pay for better quality. So there were already these 4 challenges, or should I say these 4 technology evolutions happening around the world. This is changing all of that. This is where people want to now see content in very, very premium quality on a very large screen in their living room. So it adds another dimension to an operator's planning on how you would design these networks, how you would design your head-ends and your compression systems towards a 2020 realization of all these challenges being addressed for your consumers. Can I just ask if how many of you, if just a raise of hands, how many of you have heard about ultra high definition and have been reading about it, just out of curiosity? Okay, I have 1 hand, which is good. So okay, 2 hands. So okay, third. We all know about standard definition. We all know about high definition. Ultra high definition is 4 times, to simply put it, the resolution of high definition. So if you see today in the market, you will hardly be able to find standard definition TVs on the shelf. They are mostly high definition as a starting point, or most of the TVs now come with a resolution 4 times HD, and they're ultra high definition TVs. That is the kind of quality and experience our consumers expect. Sony, LG, Toshiba, name every television brand in the world today has a lineup of ultra high definition TVs that are coming to the market. So in another 2 to 3 years, we expect that almost every TV will have an ultra high definition resolution on the market being launched in about 2 to 3 years' time. So this is something that we have to be aware of as an operator for 2020.
ก็ที่จะเห็นว่าผู้คนนะครับสิ่งที่ผู้ชมต้องการนะครับก็คือคุณภาพที่มากขึ้นเรื่อยๆนะครับแล้วก็จะเห็นว่าผู้ผลิตทีวีในปัจจุบันนะครับจะออกทีวีที่เป็น Ultra High Def นะครับซึ่งเราก็คิดว่าในอีก 2-3 ปีเนี่ยหลายๆผู้ผลิตทุกๆผู้ผลิตนะครับจะมีการใช้งานแต่ผลิตตัว Ultra High Def TV ออกมานะครับซึ่งในฐานะที่อสมทเป็นผู้ผลิตรายการนะครับก็คือจะต้องตระหนักในส่วนนี้ด้วยนะครับว่าต่อไปเนี่ยเทรนด์ของผู้บริโภคจะไปในตรงไหนนะครับ
So I was talking about MPEG 2, moving on to how the world evolved into MPEG 4 and now HEVC. So I'd like to explain a little bit more about what does HEVC mean and what does it mean to Mcot, to Channel 9 in your digital terrestrial television operations that you have today with MPEG 4 or you're starting out with. MPEG 2, it has been around for almost 20 years now, started out in 1994. It is a very stable technology. Almost every single operator has a digital setup in some form or fashion which had MPEG 2 being used in their ecosystem. There are applications from traditional cables, satellite, terrestrial, everything ran on MPEG 2. It started out really 20 years back. Device adoption, it is across almost every device. There is no single video chipset for set-top box or for a device manufactured today that does not have MPEG-2 support. It is everywhere. It is across the whole world. MPEG-2, however, came out in about 2004, 2005, 10 years after MPEG-2, and there started to be an uptake in America in around 2005, 2006 with MPEG-4. MPEG-4, however, came with a very big promise. It came with a promise of 50% bandwidth reduction compared to MPEG-2. There was adoption, and now today MPEG-4 essentially has almost replaced MPEG-2, or if I may say, they coexist in every operator's ecosystem. Legacy on MPEG-2 and any of the new services really being launched today are by default an MPEG-4 service today. It is a technology that is today's mainstream technology. It has been for 10 years. It is something which is going to stay just like MPEG-2. Applications deployed across the ecosystem for every new digital service that is being launched today. Device adoption. Every set-top box today comes with an MPEG-4 decoding support. Every device today, whether it is your iPhone or the cheapest Android phone that you buy today in the market, has an MPEG-4 software decoding capability on it.
ครับก็จาก MPEG-2 นะครับ MPEG-2 เนี่ยมีการใช้มาตั้งแต่อดีตนะครับประมาณ20ปีมาแล้วครับแล้วก็มีการพัฒนา MPEG-4 ขึ้นมานะครับประมาณ10กว่าปีที่ผ่านมาซึ่ง MPEG-4 ที่ถูกพัฒนาขึ้นมานะครับก็สิ่งที่เขาต้องการทำนะครับก็คือลดบิตเรทนะครับลงไป 50% นะครับแล้วก็จะเห็นว่าในปัจจุบันเนี้ยทั้งสมาร์ทโฟนต่างๆนะครับทั้ง Android หรือว่า iPhone เนี่ยคือสามารถที่จะดีโคดหรือว่าถอดรหัสตัว MPEG-4 ตรงนี้ได้นะครับ
Don't look at me. I don't know what you're saying, sir. Yeah, he's checking with me if he's saying the right thing. It does not matter. HEVC. Now let's talk about the new and the next step to how MPEG-4 has evolved. In 2015, or should I say 2014, HEVC became a standard. HEVC, just like MPEG-4 and MPEG-2, is 10 years after MPEG-4. So there's a trend here. Every 10 years, there's a new codec for the last 20, 30 years. And HEVC, again, promises 50% bandwidth saving compared to MPEG-4. If you do the simple math, it means you can now have double the number of channels as compared to what you used to compared to MPEG-4. However, HEVC today is still evolving. It is not yet mainstream. There are a few services that are starting to begin in HEVC, but not mainstream. It is not everywhere today. It is just starting out like MPEG-4 started 10 years back. There are multiple applications. One of the applications that comes directly to mind for HEVC as a codec is ultra-high definition. From SD, it went to HD, and everybody deployed HD in MPEG-4 because it was more resolution, needed more bits to be transmitted, and MPEG-4 was a better codec. Similarly, now with ultra-high definition, when there is 4 times the resolution, you need to reduce the bandwidth or the bit rate of the stream to a point where it can be transmitted over a conventional network. So HEVC as a codec and ultra-high definition as a technology are today almost taken in the same breath. They're almost being thought of as the first application of HEVC.
ก็หลังจาก MPEG-4 ประมาณ10ปีนะครับก็มีการพัฒนา HEVC ขึ้นมานะครับซึ่ง HEVC เนี่ยก็ผู้คนก็มีความคาดหวังเหมือนกันนะครับก็คือในการที่จะลดบิตเรทของมันลงมานะครับ
Another very important application of HEVC that comes to mind is streaming, because the internet pipes are small. They are not very penetrated in some countries of the world. So if you can reduce the bandwidth by 50%, then over-the-top and streaming applications, because there is a big uptake of streaming, becomes a natural use of HEVC in your services.
ครับก็ที่ HEVC สามารถลดบิตเรทลงมาได้นะครับก็ทำให้คิดว่าในอนาคตเนี่ยการใช้ HEVC เนี่ยจะเป็นสิ่งที่ปกติทั่วๆไปเหมือนกับว่าที่เราใช้ MPEG-4 อยู่ในปัจจุบันนี้นะครับ
So as an operator, you have to today sit together and decide what do you want to be operating as in 2020 and design your systems for that. You need to be thinking of all these different factors that are evolving the TV industry and design your systems for that. So when you are making these decisions today about the codec, the delivery, whether it's DVB-T, DVB-T2, or whether you are going to launch into a satellite operation, you need to be thinking of what the consumers expect in 2018, 2019, 2020, and these are the things that are driving your design and your thought processes today.
นี่เขาบอกว่าคือในการที่เราจะออกแบบระบบอะไรขึ้นมาเนี่ยครับเราจะต้องมองถึงในอนาคตว่าเทรนด์ของผู้บริโภคต่อไปเนี่ยเขาจะเป็นยังไงนะครับเพื่อให้เราสามารถที่จะออกแบบระบบในปัจจุบันเนี่ยเพื่อให้รองรับกับสิ่งต่างๆที่จะเกิดขึ้นในอนาคตครับ
As I mentioned, in 1995 there was MPEG 2. In 2005, MPEG 4 with 50% bandwidth saving target. And now in 2015, or should I say 2013, 2014, 15, there is HEVC with the same promise that we can save bandwidth compared to MPEG 4 at about 50%. So you can imagine then where the whole compression world is going and what you can do as an operator in increasing the number of channels and services to your consumers on the adoption of HEVC.
ครับจากกราฟเนี่ยก็จะเห็นว่าจากที่เป็น MPEG 2 MPEG 4 HEVC นะครับก็แบนด์วิดต์เนี่ยก็จะลดลงทีละ 50% นะครับเพราะฉะนั้นในฐานะที่เป็นผู้ให้บริการเนี่ยก็ต้องมองว่าในอนาคตต่อไปเนี่ยเมื่อแบนด์วิดต์มันลดลงแล้วครับเราสามารถที่จะเพิ่มจำนวนช่องรายการเข้าไปได้เนี่ยแล้วเราจะเตรียมตัวตรงนั้นยังไงนะครับ
These are some of the uses of HEVC. Video over LTE. So we know that mobile networks today have very fast data networks. You have 3G, you have 4G, all these mobile networks. So when you think of delivering video over a mobile phone and you want place shifting, you want to move with the content, then streaming video over a 4G network, an LTE network, is a very good application of HEVC because it requires much less bandwidth. You are streaming to a device where the resolution is very small, so you are consuming very little bandwidth on the mobile network. Multi-screen. We talked about how you have to deliver content to multiple devices over an unmanaged IP network, over the internet, and that is another application of HEVC. SNG. There is always a bandwidth limitation on how many services you can push or the quality that you can push in your SNG applications, and HEVC has an application in being able to send better quality or more channels over the satellite network in an SNG environment. And ultra high definition, we talked about it. The bigger the resolution, the more quality expectation by the consumer, the less bandwidth you have to send that stream over the network. HEVC is a perfect use case for those different applications that are available. DTT. Mcot runs a DVB-T to DTT network today. I can show you in the next few slides on what that means for you, on the number of channels that you can be thinking as an example on your DTT networks in the future with the coming of the HEVC.
ก็จะให้ดูแอปพลิเคชันต่างๆนะครับที่จะเกิดขึ้นที่สามารถช่วยเราได้นะครับอย่างเช่นตัว DSNG เนี่ยเมื่อเราสามารถที่จะลดบิตเรทลงไปได้นะครับเราก็สามารถที่จะเพิ่มช่องขึ้นไปได้หรือว่าทำให้คุณคุณภาพของมันเนี่ยมากขึ้นนะครับรวมถึงในการใช้ Ultra HD TV เนี่ยก็คือในการที่จะส่งตรงนี้ก็คือควรจะใช้เป็น HEVC นะครับรวมถึงในระบบ Digital TV นะครับที่ทางอสมทใช้อยู่เนี่ยครับถ้าเกิดว่าต่อไปในอนาคตเราเปลี่ยนเป็น HEVC เนี่ยนะครับจะเกิดอะไรขึ้นนะครับ
The next slide. The next. You're going up.
Yes.
Here. So for you as an operator, there are many business potentials coming out of this technology codec leap. You have obviously the 50% bandwidth saving, more services, more advertising revenue, more opportunities for your consumers to consume more content from you as an operator. There are new services like 4K, ultra high definition that you can be launching on your DTT platform in the future to be able to monetize that, to be able to make money from that ultra high definition premium service because of HEVC in the future. You have picture quality improvements on your existing channels. Now you will need half the bandwidth at the current quality that you are transmitting. So if you keep exactly the same bandwidth, theoretically, you can increase the quality by double on your networks. You have more services, as I talked about. You have so much more options and so much more bandwidth to do different applications. You could be running a VOD application on an IP network or on a two-way communication network in parallel to your DTT because of the extra bandwidth available on your networks. It will benefit everybody. It will benefit you as an operator. It will benefit us as somebody who's producing solutions. It will benefit the consumer. In new services, better picture quality, more choice, more flexibility, and availability of content everywhere, exactly as they want it in 5 years from now.
ครับก็จากที่ HEVC เนี่ยมันสามารถลดบิตเรทลงไปได้ 50% นะครับสิ่งที่โอกาสทางธุรกิจที่จะเกิดขึ้นนะครับก็อย่างเช่นเราสามารถที่จะใช้Ultra HD TV ได้นะครับหรือว่าในเรื่องของเซอร์วิสเช่นถ้าเราใช้บิตเรทเท่าเดิมเนี่ยครับเราก็สามารถที่จะเพิ่มจำนวนช่องรายการลงไปได้นะครับหรือว่าเราจะเพิ่มquality คุณภาพของภาพลงไปในส่วนนั้นได้นะครับซึ่งจะเห็นว่ามันจะมีโอกาสทางธุรกิจในการเพิ่มการให้บริการของเราเพิ่มมากขึ้นได้ครับ
So now let's just discuss what does it mean for Mcot and your digital terrestrial network. From DVB-T to DVB-T2, this is the evolution of where Mcot is right now. Channel 9, you're launching a DVB-T2 network. This is based on some calculations, based on some assumptions of the bandwidth you have. This is not for you, this is just an example of the bandwidth of what a DVB-T pipe has as bandwidth. Let's assume that you have a bandwidth of about 23 megabits per second on your DVB-T network, right? This is again based on some assumptions that we have at the bottom. So there are some assumptions about the frequency band, your information of the payload, etc. So we've taken some basic calculations and said that there is about 23 megabits per second of DVB-T bandwidth on your pipe. You take out the PSI, the audio, the other overheads, and you have about 20 megabits per second left for video in that. There is no further improvement that is happening on the DVB-T networks around the world. Just moving to DVB-T2, you then have the ability to increase your bandwidth by 35 to 40%. This is again based on these calculations. You're looking at about 32.8 megabits per second, leaving you with about 30 megabits per second or 29 megabits per second of video traffic that you can ride on a DVB-T2 network. This is assuming that you have no change of codec. This is just purely the evolution of from DVB-T to DVB-T2. However, in the next few slides, I will show you if you evolve your codec, your delivery codec from MPEG-2 to MPEG-4 and then to HEVC in a DVB-T2 network, what does it mean for you in terms of the new services and number of services you can launch?
ครับอันนี้จะให้เห็นว่าเป็นตัวเลขสมมุตินะครับว่าถ้าเกิดเราใช้ DVB-T เนี่ยเราจะได้บิตเรทอยู่ที่23เมกะบิตเปอร์เซกนะครับแต่เมื่อเราใช้เป็น DVB-T2 นะครับก็จะได้สูงขึ้นมานะครับ32เมกเนี่ยก็จะเห็นว่ามันมีพื้นที่ที่มากขึ้นนะครับเราก็สามารถที่จะเพิ่มเซอร์วิสลงไปในนั้นได้ครับ
So let me just take today's setup, or should I say a setup where you have only MPEG-2 services. We are assuming here, this is just an assumption, that an MPEG-2 standard definition service is 4.5 megabits per second, and MPEG-2 high definition service is 9 megabits per second. This could be very different in your calculations. This is an example from an Australian DTT ecosystem. In DVB-T, you can, because of 20 megabits per second video bandwidth, you can have about 3 MPEG-2 SD channels and 1 HD. However, moving to DVB-T2, now you can have an additional channel of SD, or maybe, depending on the bandwidth you use, a couple of channels or 3 channels extra between your DVB-T to your DVB-T2 on an MPEG-2 delivery. If we move to an MPEG-4 ecosystem, you now have the choice of many more channels because MPEG 2 is half the bandwidth of MPEG 2. So now we assume that MPEG 4 standard definition is 2.25 megabits and an MPEG 4 HD channel is about 5 megabits per second. You would see that in DVB-T, you have 9 channels of MPEG 4 SD. However, that can increase to 13 channels in the case of DVB-T2. So now you have additional 4 channels to play with just by evolving your codec on your DVB-T2 network. There is a big jump on your, there's a big jump, no. Yeah. There is a big jump on your HD channels as well. So going MPEG 4, which you are today, is the right decision for your DVB-T2 networks because you have more bandwidth and you have the efficiency of a very stable, good codec in MPEG 4 to be able to launching your services. However, you will start to see the main change in HEVC. And this is HEVC. So now just compare the number of channels that you have in MPEG 2 versus MPEG 4 versus HEVC. The number of HEVC standard definition channels goes from 9 to 18 in your DVB-T network and about 26 standard definition HEVC channels in your DVB-T2. So now you're looking at a case where you have 26 channels of standard definition quality on your DVB-T2 network using HEVC or up to 10 high definition channels on that DVB-T2 pipe in HEVC. So a combination of moving from DVB-T to DVB-T2 and adopting HEVC now gives you so many more channels. It's doubling from what you can probably have today. It's a very big jump in the amount of money and monetization of what you can do with the number of services. The game changes further. But can you explain this?
ครับจากตารางด้านบนนะครับก็จะเห็นว่าในส่วนบนนะครับเป็น DVB-T เนี่ยถ้าเราใช้ MPEG 2นะครับเราจะได้ Standard Depth ทั้งหมด3ช่องนะครับแล้วก็ High Depth 1ช่องที่ MPEG 2นะครับแต่ถ้าเกิดว่าเป็น MPEG ถ้าเป็น DVB-T2 เนี่ยจะได้ MPEG 2 Standard Depth เนี่ย4ช่องนะครับแล้วก็ High Depth จำนวน1ช่องแต่เมื่อมีการเปลี่ยนเป็น MPEG 4นะครับในส่วนของ DVB-T2 นะครับจะเห็นว่าถ้าเราใช้เป็น Standard อย่างเดียวเนี่ยจะได้อยู่ประมาณ13ช่องนะครับหรือถ้าเกิดใช้ High Depth อย่างเดียวจะได้ประมาณ6ช่องนะครับซึ่งในอนาคตเนี่ยถ้ามีการใช้เป็น HEVC นะครับ Standard Depth เนี่ยจะได้สูงถึง26ช่องนะครับแล้วก็ High Depth อยู่ที่10ช่องนะครับ
You know, if I may ask, does anybody have a question so far on what I have presented or what you see on the slide right now? I'm happy to take questions. So I'll carry on. It's evolving to another point. I talked about ultra high definition. Ultra high definition using MPEG 2 or MPEG 4 would not have been possible on the traditional terrestrial pipes. But with HEVC, you have a case where you can now introduce the ultra high definition channel on your DVB-T2 pipe in HEVC. So you can imagine that in the future, a premium high quality service in ultra high definition is possible on a DVB-T2 bandwidth pipe. It was never possible. It was HEVC as a standard that's enabling you as a terrestrial operator to be able to launch premium pay TV services on your terrestrial pipe. And this is an example of how Mcot can evolve their service lineup and their offering of premium services and standard services on your bandwidth in the future on your DVB-T2 installation.
ครับก็ในปัจจุบันนะครับถ้าเกิดมีการใช้แค่ MPEG 2 กับ MPEG 4เนี่ยในการที่เราจะส่งข้อมูลให้ลูกค้าที่เป็น Ultra High Definition เนี่ยซึ่งมันไม่สามารถที่จะเป็นไปได้เลยนะครับแต่ว่าในอนาคตเนี่ยเมื่อมีการใช้เป็น HEVC เนี่ยก็จะเห็นว่ามันสามารถที่จะทำเป็น Ultra HD TV ให้กับผู้ชมได้นะครับซึ่งตรงนี้ก็คือก็ต้องมองว่า Mcot เนี่ยจะระบบที่ทาง Mcot ใช้อยู่นะครับจะที่สามารถที่จะเปลี่ยนเป็น HEVC ได้ในอนาคตนะครับแล้วก็จะทำยังไงเพื่อรองรับในส่วนนี้ต่อไปนะครับ
However, there is a challenge. The challenge is that HEVC as a standard requires 10 times the processing power to encode content. So if MPEG 4 requires processing that you do in the encoding today, HEVC requires 10 times the processing power, which means that we as a solution provider have to make equipment or produce equipment that is now able to process content at 10 times, or should I say, should be able to process the content to be able to encode HEVC with 10 times the more processing power. That is the challenge for us as a solution provider, and that is the challenge for you as an operator because of the timing of such hardware available in the future, which is able to process content with 10 times the power. So if we do a very quick mathematics, if HEVC requires 10 times the processing power and ultra high definition is 4 times the resolution, then the power required for a 4K ultra high definition HEVC channel is 40 times, which is 4 into 10. So you need about 40 times more processing in the encoders to be able to produce an HEVC ultra high definition channel to bring the bandwidth to what I showed in the previous slide. And that is something that Ericsson is leading in designing our encoding solutions for the future, to be able to cater for the standard definition needs as well as designing solutions to be able to meet the processing power needs of the future, which is obviously 40 times or even in some cases 80 times, because ultra high definition in the standard process is coming with 60 frames per second and not 30 frames per second. So you have to multiply the need to process more frames, double the frames, and that makes the power need of an HEVC ultra high definition channels about 80 times more than HD channel in MPEG 4. And that is something that Ericsson is leading the change, because we have the consumer labs reports telling us that is what consumers expect in 2020. I think there's limited time, so but go for it.
ครับก็ในตัว HEVC นะครับในการที่จะ process ภาพออกมาเนี่ยมันใช้ processing power มากกว่า MPEG 4เนี่ยอยู่10 เท่านะครับซึ่งทาง Ericsson เนี่ยก็พัฒนาในส่วนนี้อยู่นะครับเพราะเขามองว่าในอนาคตเนี่ยเทรนด์ของลูกค้าเนี่ยจะเป็นยังไงนะครับในปี 2020 ครับ
This is what I explained to you just now, that ultra high definition and processing HEVC content for ultra high definition needs about 80 times more processing power to be able to produce content.
ครับในการที่จะทำเป็น Ultra HD TV เนี่ยก็จะใช้ processing power เนี่ยสูงกว่าที่เป็น MPEG 4เนี่ยถึง40ถึง80 เท่านะครับในการทำ Ultra HD TV.
This is where the ultra high definition standardization is happening right now. It is in the standards body. They are defining right now the ultra high definition phase 1, which is a resolution of 2160p and 60 or 50 frames per second. And that is what is obviously the first standard. They are already talking about the ultra high definition phase 2, where they are talking about high speed sports content at 120 frames per second. So you can imagine that the processing power for that would also double, theoretically, to almost 160 times compared to an MPEG 4 HD channel today. So we need to be designing solutions to be able to have processing power for the future to be able to cater for these customer needs. Ultra high definition at premium quality, half the bit rate at 120 frames per second as the most premium customer experience that we can deliver to our consumers in next 3, 4, 5 years.
ครับอันนี้เป็นการร่างมาตรฐานของ Ultra HD TV นะครับก็จะเห็นว่าในเฟส1นะครับตัว resolution ของมันเนี่ยอยู่ที่ 1260p เป็น 50-60 Hz นะครับแล้วก็ในเฟสต่อไปเนี่ยก็คือจะเพิ่มขึ้นเป็น120นะครับซึ่งจะเห็นว่าซึ่งทางผู้ผลิตซึ่งเป็น Ericsson เองนะครับก็คือต้องพัฒนาตัวอุปกรณ์เนี่ยให้สามารถรองรับตัว processing power ที่ต้องใช้มากขึ้นในอนาคตครับ
There is a limitation of time, so I will probably explain one more slide so that, and then we can have a discussion outside at a booth. I will be available outside at the booth to have a discussion on the different choices that you have for HEVC in the future.
ครับก็เดี๋ยวเวลาจะหมดแล้วนะครับก็เดี๋ยวขอพูดอีกแค่สไลด์เดียวนะครับซึ่งถ้ามีคำถามอะไรเนี่ยก็มีบูธอยู่ด้านหน้านะครับบูธของ Strong Brother ครับ
So there are three choices really of how you will be able to achieve HEVC in your applications. Because the processing power required for HEVC is much higher than MPEG-4, you can go for COTS, which is consumer off the shelf, which is you can buy hardware from HP or the normal off-the-shelf hardware and put software on it and make it a software encoding platform. It will only provide you a limited amount of power because that is what the power of today's hardware is. The second choice that you have is hybrid. Hybrid means that you can use encoders today that are a combination of software and what we call GPUs, which are graphic processing units. The combination of them together inside hardware can give you much more power inside the hardware to process HEVC. However, both these options are not sufficient today to be able to give you 50% bandwidth saving because they do not achieve the processing power that you need compared to MPEG-4 HD. The ultimate solution for a proper ultra high definition service with 50% bandwidth reduction has to be done in hardware. And that is where Ericsson has solutions for software, has solutions for the combination of software and GPU, as well as designing our own hardware solutions for ultra high definition HEVC implementation in the future.
ครับเขาบอกว่าในการที่จะทำให้ performance ที่มากขึ้นในอนาคตนะครับคือ consumer product ที่อยู่ในปัจจุบันเนี่ยทางฮาร์ดแวร์นะครับไม่สามารถที่จะรองรับ processing power ที่ต้องสูงขึ้นในอนาคตนะครับแต่ว่าในส่วนของการทำ HEVC เนี่ยก็เป็นสิ่งที่ทาง Ericsson กำลังทำอยู่นะครับก็คือมีการพัฒนาฮาร์ดแวร์ซอฟต์แวร์แล้วก็ GPU ไปพร้อมกันทั้งหมดนะครับ
I am again available outside to have a more detailed discussion about these different options you have. But due to the lack of time, I will probably summarize for you. We talked about HEVC today and the kind of potential HEVC has for you as Mcot. There are very many options for your existing operations to go to HEVC in the future. When is HEVC happening is a very common question we hear. And the answer is when you are ready as an application to launch an HEVC service. There are multiple applications you can run, but you need to be listening to your consumers, and then you need to be thinking of the services as an operator you want to launch, and then see as a technology choice if HEVC will empower your operations towards the consumer needs and adopt HEVC. It has multiple answers. It really depends on your strategy as an operator to then start those new services. There are many, many choices for HEVC to be launched in your operations. There is no one correct answer. Software today, hardware of the future, it is totally dependent on your operations and how you want to be able to run an HEVC system. We as Ericsson are here to help, and we will be guiding you in this process to be able to understand what it means for your business. Please use us anytime, anywhere you want us for that information. And we will be launching in future what we call the Ericsson virtualized encoding, which we believe is the right stepping stone towards an HEVC future for any operator. I can talk more about virtualized encoding outside again. And that's the summary of my presentation. Hope it's been useful. Thank you very much again for having us here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Amit, for the instruction today.